We're live. Well, we're not live, but we're recording. Hold on, I get nervous. All right, we're going. Hello, mother.
Hi, son.
How are we? How we doing?
Wonderful. How
Everyone, this is my my mother, Mary.
Hi.
Yeah, basically this podcast, we're just gonna be, so most podcasts I usually jump around topics, usually cover a wide variety of things. This one, I was like, you know what, I think it's a good idea to kind of talk about one topic, because this topic, you know, it's good, it's like, it's impactful to a lot of people, especially my family, so I figured, you know, without, a lot of people don't fully understand the importance of the topic we're going to discuss and like the severity of it. I know I'm leading people on, building up the hype, but we're going to talk about diabetes and mainly type 1 diabetes, and just kind of go over it. So we'll start off by saying why we're discussing it. Obviously, that's the biggest question. My little brother has type 1 juvenile diabetes. He was diagnosed. When was he diagnosed exactly?
2 years ago.
So
he was 3.
So he was 3. So, you know, it's like a sensitive, not a sensitive topic, but like it's a topic that I feel like needs to be discussed. And like obviously people advocate like, oh, let's be healthy and let's talk about being healthy and like talk about diseases so we can learn more. But I don't see many people talking about diabetes. So.
Well, there's a lot of misconceptions too with diabetes.
Yeah, well, I said it to you, but like when we were talking about doing this in the first place, like it's gonna sound a little messed up, and I don't mean it to come off as rude, so please don't take this as rude. I thought it was something that overweight people had, like if you were very overweight and like you just had a poor diet, no exercise, no water or mineral intakes. I assumed it was something like that until Declan got it.
And see, that's type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
That's the
important to
misconception with
differentiate.
it.
Yeah.
So with type 2 diabetes, it is more lifestyle, things you're eating, drinking, not exercising, smoking, things like that.
So smoking can cause it too?
Yes.
Like tobacco or weed? Like what type of smoke? Like any smoke?
I would assume cigarette smoke. It's just a bad lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
When it comes to type 1 diabetes, it's a chronic condition that usually affects kids, teenagers, but adults can actually get it. They can have late onset type 1 diabetes.
So it can lay dormant your whole young adult and childhood life and then kind of just hit you one day?
So what's weird about this is they really don't have a reason 100% as to why people get diabetes.
Okay.
Some of it's genetic. Some of it they're learning more about is it can be triggered by a virus. And that's basically what happened to your brother. That's what they think caused it. That he had hand, foot, and mouth about a month before he was diagnosed. It went away. 2 weeks later it came back, and then he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And type 1 diabetes is basically where insulin-producing cells, they're attacked by the body itself and in the body's immune system. And you have, in your pancreas, that produces the insulin.
Okay, so your pancreas is the main source of all insulin production, or is it the only source?
Yes.
It's the only source?
So that's how
Okay.
the pancreas produces insulin, and as automatically does. Anytime you eat, it produces more insulin so that your glucose, your blood sugar, does not go up. So it keeps it level. It keeps it where it's supposed to be. So with type 1 diabetes, it's your body is basically attacking those cells, so it no longer produces insulin or very little insulin.
And there's no like reason for why that happens. It just happens. Like we don't know the reason for that though.
It's just an autoimmune disease, and they're doing research with it all the time and learning new things about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of it can be genetic if you have somebody in your family who's had it. Environmental, like I said, with viruses, things like that, the body attacks those cells.
Yeah. So it attacks those cells thinking they're bad cells. In reality, they're just trying to. I might be misphrasing it. But like, are they attacking the cells because they think they're negative, like they're like a virus or something, or are they like I don't know if I'm phrasing that correctly, but kind of why do they attack it in the first place? Is my question, I guess.
To be honest, I'm not even sure.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if anyone is really sure.
Okay, that's my next question.
Yeah, that's just how your body is just a crazy thing, and it just attacks those cells, so you no longer produce insulin or very little insulin. Some people have a little bit of insulin, and if they eat something they take their insulin, their pancreas will produce more insulin, so you drop low, which is something I'm sure we'll talk about in a little while. But other times, people have no insulin at all.
Completely none.
Yes.
Interesting. So let's backtrack a little bit. We were talking about Declan. We don't have to get into too specific details if you want to talk about, because obviously like that's your kid. Like, you know, some people don't want to put their stuff out there.
No, I don't.
Me personally, you motherfuckers know I love putting my stuff out there, because I don't give. That's just how it is.
Of course you do.
But like. What were the beginnings? You said he had hand, foot, and mouth, obviously, which kind of triggered it or started it or revealed it, I guess. What were the symptoms of the early onset symptoms that kind of made the doctors or you or or anyone kind of realize like, oh, there's something different than just hand, foot, and mouth going on right now? What started?
So he seemed off.
Yeah.
He was a little bit more cranky than usual. He was extremely thirsty. He was urinating a lot more than he normally does. He was constantly hungry, tired, losing a lot of weight, and just seemed off. And then I thought that that's what was going on with him, just from the symptoms.
You thought that it was diabetes initially? Okay.
Yeah, but I think I had a little bit of denial because I'm a mom and I didn't want to believe that's what it was.
It's a hard thing to admit, for your child. Yeah.
But June 2nd, of 2019, we got up in the morning. The day before, he wasn't feeling too good, and when he got up in the morning, it was a Sunday, he was completely gray. He was vomiting. You could see every bone in his body, every rib, and it's not like the weight loss happened overnight.
Yeah,
it was progressively happening.
Was the word, yeah.
He couldn't move off the couch, and I brought him to his pediatrician. She did a blood finger stick to check his glucose, and it was too high to read, so they sent me right into Children's Hospital.
What do you mean it was too high to read?
His glucose, his blood sugar level was too high to read on the monitor.
So the monitor was like, it wouldn't pick it up, like it was just so above the like normal?
Yes.
I didn't even know that was possible.
Yes. So I think it kind of depends on, I'm only used to one of the finger stick monitors that we use.
Yeah. So
after 399, it won't read anymore. So he was over 400.
Okay, so what's the average, what your blood sugar should be or blood glucose should be? If 400 is like, I assume 400 is astronomically high if the meter won't even read it.
Yes.
So what's like the average or medium?
For someone without diabetes?
For both, with or without?
So for someone without diabetes, it should be, between maybe 70 to 100.
Wow, okay.
For someone with diabetes, he has target ranges. So it kind of varies depending on the time of day, to be honest. So from when he gets up in the morning until he goes to bed, he has a target range in the morning he has a target range right at breakfast of 130. So they want him to stay under 130 for as much as he can. So we have to, if he's over 130, we have to do a correction.
What do you mean by, sorry, I don't mean to intro, what do you mean by correction? Just because I know the term, but people who might not know anything might not know what the term correction means. I don't mean to delve into different topics. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So if he is over 130 in the morning when he gets up and wants to have breakfast, I have to do what's called a correction, which means because he's over 130, I have to give him insulin for however many points he's over. So there's a whole math equation that you have to do in order to figure out how much insulin he needs.
Gotcha.
For a long time, he was doing injections for almost 2 years. It was an injection.
Every time?
Every time he needed insulin. That was whether it was he was eating or he just needed a correction because his sugar was high.
Yeah.
So later on, during the day and overnight, if he's over 150, that's when he needs a correction and he needs more insulin.
So the time of day really depends on what his number should be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's not the case for everybody.
Everyone's different?
Everybody can be different.
So why is that?
Just how your body produces insulin, how much insulin you have in your body. It can honestly be because of the time of year.
Really? So like seasonal changes?
Yeah.
Like people have heard of like seasonal depression and shit like that, or seasonal allergies, but I didn't know I didn't know that seasonal could affect the target of the numbers.
Yeah.
Or the production, I should say.
Right now, because it's hot, The heat makes his blood sugar go lower, just because it's the heat. Exercise makes his blood sugar go down. So swimming, playing outside, riding your bike can make his blood sugar go down. When it's colder out, his blood sugar stays more stable. So it is funny that depending on the time of year, it can change. So depending on the time of year, it could be in the summer he needs less insulin, but in the winter he needs more insulin. Probably also because he's not as active outside, playing outside.
So being active kind of depends. If you're active or not active, it kind of depends how much insulin you naturally produce by yourself, like alone?
No, it would be how much I have to give him.
Oh, okay.
So he right now produces a little bit of insulin. He doesn't produce the normal amount a normal person without diabetes would.
Yeah.
So he produces a little bit of insulin. That could eventually change, and he could produce no insulin at all.
So it could just switch in any day, basically?
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people, they have what's called a honeymoon period. So after someone is diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, they could go 2, 3, 4, 5 days without needing insulin at all because your pancreas kicked in a little bit more and is producing insulin. Eventually, it will stop.
So this is a little off topic, but what you're saying is like you're saying people can go days without it. So when at my last job I was working, I remember there was that guy who was in the restaurant and he was saying how like he was diabetic and he hadn't had insulin in weeks and like he was feeling really bad and everything. So we like obviously I did what I had to do and like figured it out. But is that possible? That was he like just exaggerating, or can you literally go weeks or months without being diabetic without the insulin? Like, can you survive that long, or is it like?
I've never heard of that happening. I don't know what his circumstances were with it, but he could have also had type 2 diabetes.
Gotcha.
So with type 2 diabetes, it's a totally different game than type 1. If you go without insulin, your blood sugar is going to go high. If you go to a high blood sugar level, it will cause, it could end up causing DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis. So it basically is your body has no insulin at all. Your blood sugar is out of control. It can cause coma. It can cause death.
And how rare is that? Like, does that happen commonly, do you know? Or is that like a
does.
severe cases?
It does. It can happen if somebody's sick because your numbers get all screwed up when you're sick. Stomach virus, you might be down for 2 days with. Somebody with diabetes might be a week with. But then once they feel better, their numbers can still be off for another 2 weeks because basically their gut isn't healed in a way. So that's something you have to be very, very cautious of.
Yeah,
and
understandable.
keeping control of high blood sugars because that can also lead to so many different complications.
What kind of complications can it lead to? If you don't, like, I don't mean to like delve into that. Just like
No, that's fine. So somebody who has constant high blood sugars could have nerve damage, heart disease.
Interesting.
They could get blindness.
Oh yeah, I've heard people going
Kidney
blind
failure.
from diabetes. So that's why people can't go blind from diabetes because of that.
I can't. I don't want to say that that's the only reason, but a lot of people that I have heard about. I am in a diabetes support group. Then different things that people have written about. When they're in their late teens, early 20s, they just don't care. They don't want to take control of it. They don't want to, give them injections all the time or monitor their diabetes. And they do end up having neuropathy in their feet or kidney failure or different things.
So is that why people sometimes get their feet or legs amputated from
Yes.
diabetes? That's the reason?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, it can be from uncontrolled diabetes.
See, I thought, like, this might sound a little stupid, but I thought maybe the reason for that was because, like, I didn't know if, like, your whole body needed insulin or if, like, different body, you know what I mean? No, body, yeah, obviously, like, from you I've learned that, but, like, I associated that with, like, okay, their feet aren't getting insulin, it's not getting to the appendages, so, like, their arms or legs or fingers might get amputated, so that's what I thought it was.
No, it's just because, So basically what happens is if you have a high blood sugar, your body basically has no energy.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is that it feeds on fat to get the energy. So when it feeds on fat to get the energy, that's one reason you lose weight.
Is that what happened with Declan initially?
Yes,
Okay.
because we didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it can lead to serious complications all over your body. And it could end up leading to death.
Now this is a weird question, but can it lead to like open sores and stuff? Because I've heard of I don't know if it was, I think it was diabetes, but I was watching a movie one time, and it could have just been made up because it's a movie. But the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I have these are from like my diabetes," and it was like open sores on his arms. Like, is that something that could happen, or like?
So someone who has diabetes takes longer to heal.
Okay.
So a cut that you might have, it might heal within a week. Someone with diabetes could take 2 or 3 weeks for it to heal.
And what's the reason for that? Because of the lack of insulin as well, or natural insulin, I should say.
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. I know I'm 2 years into this.
No, I don't mean to press you.
No, that's fine.
People understand for sure too.
It's a learning curve every day.
Yeah,
every day you're learning something new. It's not a disease that you can just take a pill in the morning and not worry about it the rest of the day.
It's not back pain or anxiety or something. Yeah.
It's a lot more than people realize.
Oh, yeah, I firsthand can vouch for that, just seeing what you're doing. You've offered to show me how to do the things numerous times, and I'm just too scared personally to mess it up and have something go haywire. But eventually I'm going to have to learn, because like what if, if I'm babysitting or something or something like that. But I think there should be like, the CPR courses and stuff like that. I feel like there should be shit like that for diabetes and other things related to that, like showing people how to kind of do these things on, like, not like test subjects, but like dummies or something, just to like figure it out. Like,
so after Declan was diagnosed, we were in a children's hospital.
Shout out Children's Hospital. Great hospital.
Amazing.
Just gonna shout it out.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. They're
great people there.
Fantastic. Yeah. So we were in there for a few days, and each day, his dad and I had to take a class. And one class might be 2 hours long. And then we'd get a break for an hour or two. Mm-hmm. The next class would be 2 or 3 hours long. Training us on how to manage diabetes, what it is, how we give injections, how we measure it out. And this took days. This wasn't just,
here's a paper, learn how to do it real quick. Yeah.
This was days and days, and they don't let you go home until they're comfortable that you can do it. And if you can't do it, you need to stay.
Yeah. As it should be.
Yes,
understandably.
Because you give more insulin than you're supposed to, that's deadly.
Yep.
I don't think people realize that that could kill you. That could absolutely kill you. It's a very scary disease.
We can get to that part after, because I'm curious about, like, because obviously you need the insulin, so it might be kind of self-explanatory, taking too much, but we can get into that in a second. But continue what you're saying about the courses. I'd like to, like, what were they like teaching you, and like how were they teaching you, and like what was the
so
like?
they taught us. So there's a lot of different factors when it comes to diabetes, and like I said before, everybody is different. Everybody has a different correction factor, which is the number you're correcting over.
Okay.
Everyone has a different carb count. So it's 1 unit for so many carbs, so many grams of carbs. So that's another actually misconception, is people think it's sugar. You can't have any sugar at all. You have to stay away from sugar. Or I've had people comment, well, it was what you were feeding him. Yeah, that's why he developed type 1 diabetes. Yeah. And that's not the case at all. It has nothing to do with the food that I fed him. It has nothing to do with the drinks that he drank. Too many lollipops or ice cream. Yeah. It has nothing to do with that.
We should state that can be the cause for type 2, though, correct?
Type 2 is eating a lot of, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because obviously, like, there's 2 variations of the disease, so I feel like it's important differentiate them as often as we can. You know what I mean? Because obviously they're not the exact same. But continue. I didn't mean to cut you
And to
off.
be honest, I kind of wish there were two different names for them because they do get clumped into one category.
Big group, yeah.
And they're not the same at all. So it's, I have to, they did teach me how to count up carbs. So if he's having cereal and milk, I have to look and measure out, and I do have to measure everything out.
Yep.
I don't even know.
I've seen the measuring cups and the little spoons and shit. Yeah, the teaspoons and the.
There's a lot, and 1 cup of cereal is 30 grams or 35 grams, and then you have to add in a cup of milk, and unfortunately, there are certain foods, and this is, I think everybody who has type 1 diabetes has a food that it just doesn't agree with them. But he's
like
5.
Spikes or lowers their number?
It makes it go higher. No matter how much insulin you give, you're still going to have a high.
Gotcha.
So they taught us how to, count everything out, add everything up. You have to divide it by a certain number to get the correct amount of insulin that he needs. They also taught about sick day protocols. So if he's sick, what we need to do, what we need to look for, what we need to test for, things like that. And then eventually it was us testing his finger with the finger stick.
And that's just the thing they poke your finger with, just people who don't know. Yeah.
Yep. And then the meter, the glucose meter, taking the syringe, measuring out how much insulin he needs, making sure it's the right one, there are no air bubbles in it, and giving him that. So when we came home, it was very, very scary. We actually wanted to bring the nurse home with us because I didn't want to do this by myself anymore.
That's how I feel when you asked me a couple months ago if I wanted to learn how to do it. I was like, I'm pretty scared.
So I will say, we went a year and a half, maybe a little bit over a year and a half, almost close to 2 years, with just doing injections. And that was for every meal, every drink he had that had carbs in it. It was for any corrections if he was over the number that he was supposed to be at. So that's a lot of shots a day.
Yeah.
That could be between 5 and 10 shots a day.
I think it's very important to note the prices of insulin in this country are disgustingly high. Not just this country, but many countries are very high. But we'll get into that too. It's just, it pisses me off personally because, first of all, I hate pharmaceutical companies in the first place, but the fact that they're leeching off something that people need to survive. If they, like Declan, if he didn't have it, what would happen if he went in a week without it?
He would die.
I would love to get a room full of people in front of a group of congressmen or women and tell them, listen, you have to regulate these fucking companies because they're literally playing with people's lives, and it just gets me so upset.
It's not even a week. I mean, he could go, if he didn't have insulin for a day, he could go into DKA, he could go into a coma, and he would be hospitalized. He could die if he does not have insulin. Yeah. This is something that our body produces for free.
Yeah.
But we have to pay an ungodly amount.
For instance, give an example of how much a vial would cost, a typical vial, if you know the number.
It honestly depends on someone's insurance, too. It can be $300 for a vial of insulin.
And how often would a vial be used?
Well, it depends. So a vial would last... So a vial is only good for 30 days after you open it. And that's only if it's refrigerated.
Yeah.
If it's at room temperature, it's less. So someone Declan's age might only go through half a bottle of insulin in a month.
Yeah. But
then we have to get rid of it because according to the pharmacy, according to the insulin company, it is no longer good.
That's why I'm making note. If you're paying $300 every 30 days, I'm not good at math, but that's $3,600 goddamn dollars a year.
But you also have
for something you need.
You also have to figure in this. So a couple months ago, I had a few issues with the insurance company.
Yep.
They wanted authorizations for his insulin. His diabetes isn't going away. He's had it for 2 years. It's not going away. There's no reason you need another authorization.
Yeah. It's not like migraines or something where you can just be, or asthma where you can grow out of it or something.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
So let me backtrack a little. So when you are doing injections, you have to have a long-lasting insulin and you have to have a short-acting insulin. The long-lasting insulin you will do once a day, and that goes for 24 hours through your body. So you get it every hour, basically, you get a certain amount of insulin released.
I think we should say what you're talking about the Dexcom system, right?
No. So this is, so he was on Tresiba. It's a long-lasting insulin.
Okay.
So every morning, when I would get up in the morning and give him breakfast, he had the long-lasting insulin, which lasts in your body for 24 hours.
So it like distributes when needed or something then?
So it's almost like a slow release.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it lasts all day long. So it kind of helps to keep his numbers down.
Yeah.
Then he had the short-acting insulin, which is for when he just has a correction for a high glucose or he's going to eat. So there's 2 different insulins. So if you think about having to get 2 insulins, that could be hundreds and hundreds of dollars each month just for the insulin.
Out of pocket if you don't have the proper insurance.
Exactly. Yeah. Co-pays.
Which a lot of Americans don't have proper insurance nowadays.
And the deductibles are outrageous.
What's the deductible for what? Sorry.
So, like when you get insurance through work, you
you have to pay monthly. Yeah,
and then you have a deductible.
Yeah, gotcha.
So people kind of also look at it like, oh, it's just insulin. It's just that all you have to really get.
Yeah.
But it's not. You have to get syringes through the pharmacy. You have to get glucose strips for the meter to test your glucose. You have to get alcohol wipes because you have to wash
Gotta be sanitary,
the top of the insulin each time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Better to be safe than sorry, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to wash the site. And if he's doing...
What's the site?
The site you're going to inject the insulin into.
Gotcha. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So if you have to do that up to 10 times a day, that's a lot.
Yeah.
There's also a ketone strip. So when you're sick and your glucose is high, anything over 300 and you're kind of like, oh, there really isn't a reason he should be that high, you have to test another strip to see if he has ketones in his system.
Okay.
If he has ketones in his system, that can lead to DKA. That's not good. Having ketones is not a good thing. That's just...
Are those a rare occurrence, or do those happen like enough where it's like you have to worry about them? So like you have to take it. Well, obviously you take it very serious, but like is it happening quite frequently where you have to like worry about it quite frequently? Or?
It depends. If you get a virus, that can cause it. If it's over a certain number, you do need to be very careful. Yeah. You have to call the 24-hour emergency line and talk to them and find out what you're supposed to do. And usually it's drink lots of water, keep doing corrections, things like that to try to bring it down. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't and it keeps going higher, you're in for a hospital stay. So Declan is also on the Dexcom, which is a continuous glucose monitor.
And that's a replacement to the constant finger pricks and injections. I'm sorry.
The finger pricks.
Oh, okay.
So before it was when he did the finger sticks, I would have to test his finger before he ate to see what he was. I was a little crazy with it and tested him a lot because I didn't know, because you can drop so quickly, go high so quickly. So it was every hour, every other hour.
You also have terrible OCD, so that's probably part of it.
I have that too. And I tested his finger. So it wasn't just the injection he was getting. It was constant finger sticks, which could be up to 15 times a day.
Again, a lot of money. Obviously, I'm not trying to just focus on the money, but
it is.
It's crazy.
It is.
It's insane.
Yes. So it was a game changer getting the CGM, the Dexcom, which is phenomenal. So basically what the CGM is every 10 days you put on a sensor. Mm-hmm. And then you put a transmitter inside it. The transmitter will go to, we have it hooked up to a phone for him. So every 5 minutes it gives a new glucose. So it tells me every 5 minutes what his glucose is. If he's too high, if he's too low, he's fine. If he's too high, it will go off, and then an alarm will go off, alerting me that he needs to have insulin, depending on what time it is, which is another issue another thing that we need to talk about too. If he's low, he needs sugar. So it's just funny, a lot of people saying, it's all because of sugar, sugar, sugar. Your body needs sugar.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I don't think people understand. Your body has to have sugar. So when he goes low, when he has a low blood glucose, he has to have a certain amount of grams of sugar to bring his glucose back up. So
carbs won't bring him back up?
Yes, that's what he needs to have. So he needs to have carbohydrates.
So carbs, not sugar? Or both?
It's a different kind of sugar.
So carbs are sugar?
They break down into sugar.
Oh.
Yes.
I guarantee you just taught 99% of the people. You've taught a lot of shit so far, but you just taught something like people probably never known. Unless I'm tripping.
So the regular sugar in like a soda is different than the carbohydrates in a soda. Carbohydrates do break down into sugar. Uh-huh. It's just a little bit different than what we think. So if he goes low, he needs 15 grams of carbohydrates, whether that be a juice box or a couple crackers or a cookie or something that adds up to 15 grams. So what's easy for us is the juice boxes. So we have stockpiles of juice boxes of 15 grams. So it's easy to grab if we're going out someplace, so he can drink it. Liquid does get into your bloodstream faster, so it helps bring him up quicker than if I gave him a couple pieces of candy.
Yeah.
So, we do that too. It's just, we kind of switch it up so he's not bored of the same thing all the time. Protein is great because it helps even you out. It helps even your blood sugar out. So protein is a big thing too. Some nights before he goes to bed, he'll even have a couple pieces of ham, because deli meat, any kind of meat or cheese, there are no carbohydrates in it. So it's what we call a free snack. So he can have as much as he wants, and he doesn't need insulin.
Never go up or down.
Yeah, he doesn't need any insulin for it either. So
not down, up. Sorry, I meant up.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now they're like, what are you talking about? The time. That's what you mentioned. Let's get into the time of things. You said the time affects things differently. What did you mean by like that? Like the time that he, I think you said the time he eats? Something like that.
So when Declan has a correction, if I give him a correction first thing in the morning, and he's at 200 and I have to give him a correction, he cannot have another correction for a high glucose for 3 hours after his last correction.
Gotcha.
But he could have insulin anytime he wants for food.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so why is that?
So if you give somebody insulin at 10 o'clock in the morning, and at 11:30 the person's still high and you give more insulin, that's called stacking, which can make somebody drop severely, very fast. So you do not ever want to stack insulin when it comes to...
Because it could all catch up at once? Maybe?
Yes.
Is that like the thought? Okay.
Yeah. So when it comes to a correction, you can't. But if he had a peanut butter sandwich at noon and then at 12:15 he wanted another snack, I can give him another dose of insulin to correct for the carbs.
Yeah.
So because he's eating, that's what he can have as much as he wants, and you just correct for it.
What about like when you guys go out to eat, or like if you could probably Google like fast food, but if you're out to eat and like the menus, like obviously they don't say all the nutritional shit on there, they just say the item's name and like the side dish. Like what do you do then? Do you Google it or? Very
tough. There are certain things that like I know off the top of my head, because even like Chris will say, hey, what's the correction for a slice of pizza? And I'm like, 31 grams.
Yeah, that's a
like I already know.
Just saying that's crazy to me. I've heard you say it. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's just I think you get in such a habit of looking it up. Yeah. So I have to look everything up. And certain things like a banana, 27 grams. I know that because you eat bananas like 4 times a week. So I just know it. Pasta, 42 grams for a cup. It's just, you just end up knowing it. If you don't know it, and there's been quite a few times we've gone to a restaurant and the nutrition menu might not be the greatest, even if they have one A lot of places don't have
I was
them.
gonna say I've never even heard of them at a restaurant.
You have to look it up.
Like online?
Yeah.
Like there's no physical copies?
Nope. There's no physical copies.
That's kind of messed up.
Yes. Yeah. But like we got McDonald's the other night and I went on to the McDonald's website, got the nutrition facts, just added what he was eating, a burger and fries, and they gave you the total. Other restaurants, you really have to look and look and look. If they don't have anything, you have to just look up, how many carbs are in 10 French fries.
Yeah, and base it off that.
Yeah.
Hoping it's kind of like made the same way.
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah. You have to. It's a lot. It's a lot to figure out. It's frustrating. He's had Chinese food. He loves Chinese food, but I have to look up everything down to the sauce he dips it in.
Yeah. So there's no like universal website like a YouTube for videos like YouTube has videos you upload. There's no site where you can upload like every restaurant and break down their menus so you can get all access to one place.
There are different apps you can get, and you can just put in, we're having a cheeseburger with French fries, and you can look it up to get an estimate. It's not going to be precise, but there's no, like a lot of the Calorie King, I use that a lot. So I just go to that website, put in what I need, and then
so if it was like chicken from that 99, you would just put in baked chicken or something?
Sometimes I'll put that in Google.
Yeah.
And I'll say how many carbs are in chicken fingers from the 99 restaurant.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will come up. Sometimes it will give a different restaurant. So I just kind of have to use my best judgment and be like, okay, well, I'm going to go with, 1 gram of carbs for 1 French fry. And then add it that way.
I feel like there should definitely, feel free to steal this idea or anybody because I want this to be made. I feel like there should definitely be like one site where restaurants can just upload their nutritional facts for all their menu items for one easy, like search up Applebee's in the app or the website and it brings it all up and boom, there's the nutritional facts. And if you can't find your restaurant, maybe you don't go there, maybe you go to a different option. And you know what I mean? Like I feel like that should really be a thing. Yeah. Like, I really hope that's a thing in the future because I feel like that would help save a lot of time and frustration.
It gets a little frustrating sometimes for me looking it all
bet,
up.
Yeah. Especially when you're not getting the result you're looking for. I bet that's mad frustrating.
Yeah, it is. But I know it sounds bad, but sometimes you have to just estimate and just say, okay, well, I'm going to give him the right dose. He's going to go a little low. Or he's going to go high. Yeah. So if he goes low, then he's just going to need a juice box to to bring him up a little bit.
Fill in the bases, basically.
Yeah. It's kind of trial and error, to be honest. But he has like some foods, like I said, with cereal or a milkshake from McDonald's. If he has a milkshake from McDonald's, we've tried it 2 or 3 times. His number, no matter how much insulin I give him, he is high for 24 hours.
So that was one of the examples of like everyone has an item, or not everyone, but that's a broad term. But a lot of people with diabetes might have one item that really just fucks with them. That's his.
Pizza, pasta.
Pizza, really?
A lot of people have a real hard time with pizza. I'm lucky that we don't.
Yeah.
He's fine with it.
Especially being a little kid, yeah.
Yeah, but he has some foods that just don't work well for him, and other people might have something totally different that doesn't work well for them.
Now earlier, I don't mean to backtrack, but you were talking about how you're in the support group. Obviously, is it like a Facebook group or is it like a Reddit Facebook?
Yeah, I'm in 3 different Facebook support groups.
I'm on the same boat with you, but for horror movies, so I feel you. Yeah.
You get a lot of good information out of there.
Nah, Facebook's a great place, especially for like this example. Like this is a great thing. Like being a new not a new parent, but being a parent who's new into the scene of the diabetes is probably a game changer. Because like if you got a question, you have instead of having to call the doctor, you have a disposable of 1,000 people or 10,000 people right there.
Yeah, and the good thing with it is to like I can sit here and talk to you about it and tell you. I was up with Declan all night because, like I said earlier, diabetes is a 24-hour, 7-day a week. Yeah. It does not sleep. Yeah. Neither does Mom. He's high. He's low. The alarms are going off during the night. It's constant. It's not just, like I said earlier, you get a pill and you're done for the day and you don't really have to worry about it. It can be minute by minute, hour to hour. So it's nice to read and hear different things that people are saying in the support groups, like, yeah, you get it. I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. You have some days where you're just so angry that why is this happening to my kid? Why is this happening to my son? This isn't right. This isn't fair that he has to deal with the finger sticks and the changing of the Dexcom and changing of the pump, and it sucks.
Yeah.
And just hearing other people understand where you're coming from makes such a difference.
Well, that's for anything, whether you're going with depression or anything, that's like having someone be like, yeah, I know what you're going through. That's a bigger weight off your shoulder, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because you're not alone, and
yeah,
that's like, it's obviously it can make you kind of question the, like, I'm not trying to get philosophical, but question the existence of a God. Be like, why would you do this? Like, why would a God do this? But like coming back kind of to like level headed and having someone be like, listen, like, yeah, like it sucks, but like people get through it. It's kind of like, I don't know. It might be a weird comparison. That's just like
no, because I fully sometimes I get mad at God because he did this.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I can't help but think, what if he had a different mom who couldn't handle this? Obviously, I'm getting this for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with this for a reason. I am the mom of a type 1 diabetic for a reason. And
hell of a mom, by the way. Hell of a mom. Shout out her. Hell of a mom.
Thanks, Josh.
Hell of a mom.
Thanks.
And I'm not saying that 'cause it's a camera here. Hell of a mom, for real.
Thank you.
Much love.
It's a lot, but you do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
You do what you gotta do, and you do what you gotta do to keep your child alive.
Yeah.
And going back to the cost and everything, because now Declan is also on the pump. So instead of having injections, he has a pump on him.
That's what I also want to get into. I wanted to talk about the difference between the Dexcom and the pump, because I know what they do, but for the audience, obviously. So you explain the Dexcom, so what's the pump do?
The pump, he is on the Omnipod, which is a tubeless pump. You fill it with insulin, and then every 2 days, some people go 3 days, but his doctors want it changed every 2 days. We change it. So instead of giving him a shot every time he needs insulin, I just give it to him basically through what looks like a little phone, and I give him the dose that way, so he doesn't have to have an injection.
I gotta pause this real quick because the dog's barking. 1 sec, folks. They won't even notice we paused it. All right, sorry about that, folks. Well, dog's barking. That's the last thing we want to listen to, especially you guys. So the Omnipod. So basically, it's a replacement instead of doing the daily shots.
Yes.
Like 10 times a day. Automatically it does it. I was kind of spacing out a little bit, focusing on the dog barking. So sorry if I mix this up, but it distributes it when he needs it throughout the day, just randomly?
So he has it set so instead of having, like I was talking about earlier, the long-lasting insulin.
Yeah.
That goes through the day. We have it set so he gets little doses of this insulin in the pod all day long. So it keeps him steady.
Gotcha.
And then when he eats or he needs a correction, we just put it in the PDM and we give it to him that way. We program it for how many carbs he's having, what his glucose number is. It calculates it for you, and then you just give it to him. And he doesn't feel anything because it just goes right in. When you put it on, it's the same thing as the Dexcom. It gets put under your skin. So it goes under the skin, and the Dexcom reads it all day long for 10 days, and then the pump goes for 2 days and just gives insulin for 2 days.
Gotcha. Now, that's one of probably the craziest game changer in the space of diabetes, I'd assume, then, because
yes,
like that's saving. Not only is it saving time, it's saving the possibility of maybe errors. Like human errors. Is that happens? That stop that?
Yes. So I will tell you, not long after Declan was diagnosed, I gave him the wrong insulin.
Yeah.
I gave him a double dose of the same insulin, thinking I was doing
So was it
one
that's
and one.
the difference between the short and the long term insulins, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I should say I didn't necessarily give it to him. I thought that I did. I thought that I gave him a double dose of his long-lasting insulin, which is not good. So we had to go to the hospital, and I was absolutely hysterical because I felt like such a failure that I screwed up. And they made me feel better because it's like it's going to happen. It will eventually.
That's just
going
natural.
to happen.
You're doing anything every day. Eventually, something's going to go wrong by accident. Yeah.
Yep. So with the pump, we have it set so that he can only have a certain number of units for a case like that. So if he needed 15 and I put in 150, then for the carbs, it would say it exceeds the amount. He cannot have it.
So it's like intelligent in that way then.
Yes, but it also is like when you put it in, it gives you how much insulin he's supposed to have. It gives you another screen to say, to, confirm it.
Yeah.
And then to start it. And then once it's started, even if you catch that you made a mistake then, you can cancel it. And he won't get the full dose because it takes a little bit, it gives it a little bit at a time, for 30 seconds to get the full dose.
So is that the same thing as the Dexcom where you just use the same device, you just replace the sensor? Like, or it was like, or not the sensor, the distributors, like, or is it, do you buy a different one every time and put a different one on?
Both have to be changed, so it's a different one.
The device itself is completely
yes.
Okay.
For the Dexcom, there's a little gray transmitter that goes into the sensor once it's placed on his arm or his bum or his belly, his thigh. Once that's on, you put the transmitter in, and that's what sends the information from the sensor to the phone. So we know how much it is. When it's the pump, it's a little bit different. It has the same kind of mechanism that goes under his arm, so he gets the insulin, but it doesn't, you can't read anything on that. You go to the PDM to look at any information, the last time he had a correction, how much he had. So it's a little bit different, but they are coming out also with a new Dexcom, and I believe a new Omnipod. So hopefully those will kind of connect, because there is another pump that has tubes, but your brother, and he would rip that tube out in a heartbeat. Like
physical tubes?
So it's like a little pod that will go on your arm if you wanted.
Yep.
But that's connected to a tube that would be connected to a little device.
Oh, I've seen that on people. Yeah, okay.
Insulin.
Was that like more prominent back in like before these two things came out? Because I feel like that's like in movies and like shows and old shows, like people like portrayed us that had those.
Yeah, and a lot of people still do have it, but having an active 5-year-old,
that's impossible.
Not going to happen, especially when it's Declan.
Yeah.
He's a little rambunctious and a daredevil, so that would get ripped out in a second.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of different things that go with that too. When it comes to expenses, they're expensive. With the Dexcom, so Declan gets to pick out every few weeks the patches that go over it, and the different designs. So we could have a baseball or football or dinosaurs or whatever. He gets to pick it out.
Yeah.
Just to make it a little bit more fun for him, because to be honest,
it's not a fun subject.
No.
So anytime you can add enjoyment to it, why not do it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it sucks. It does. It sucks having to change it. It sucks when it gets ripped out. It sucks. It just completely sucks, because it is a little pinch and it hurts, and he's 5. So it makes things a lot easier when he gets to say, here, I'm going to use this sticker today, and he gets that sticker for it. So, I mean, that's another expense, but, it's worth it.
It's worth it in the long run, yeah.
Yeah. But when it comes to expenses for everything, if I did not have insurance, when I figured this all out between, syringes and the pump and the CGM and insulin, everything that goes along with it.
Yeah.
If I did not have insurance, in general right now, because it can switch state to state, it depends on what pharmacy, I would have to pay $2,500 to $3,000 a month to keep my son alive.
And
$2,500 to $3,000 a month.
That's so fucked up.
And it's constantly, the insurance company needs more of this or more information, or it's too soon to fill your prescription, and it's like.
Now, are there any entities or organizations or people who are fighting to make like some sort of change to make this a basic human right for people who need it, like these items?
There are. I know there are people that are trying to do that, but right now there has been really no luck. It sucks. There are a lot of people who do ration insulin.
Yeah.
So they might get a bottle of insulin and they'll make it last for 2 or 3 months, even though it's expired. They'll take it every other meal or only once a day because they can't afford it. There's a lot of people that will drive to Canada to get insulin.
Oh, that was my next question, because like obviously Canada has a terrible healthcare system, but how are they with the insulin and supplies?
Insulin there could cost $90, while it's $300 for one bottle here.
Not even fucking close.
So,
is it manufactured by the same companies? Is there like a dominant, overpowered company in the space?
It depends on what you get, because I mean you can get the regular insulin by brand name, or you can get a generic insulin.
Okay.
So it also goes by like insurance companies too, what they say is okay for him to have, which is ridiculous.
They act like they know more than what a doctor would recommend.
Yes.
Yeah. Trust me, everyone who's listening to this, who's listening to other podcasts, knows how much I despise the pharmaceutical industry. And it's an evil industry. Like, that is evil to me. Like, I can't think of many things more evil than preventing someone financially from keeping their child or themselves alive. It's crazy.
So when I talked to Declan's doctor about getting the Dexcom. I was a little nervous because it's overwhelming. Like, it's a new device. I have to learn even more about this. It's a lot. So when I finally said, yep, let's do it, let's get the ball rolling, the insurance company required so many days of him wearing a trial Dexcom to see if he was getting highs and lows.
So, like, they thought it was a fraud? Like, faking it?
Well, this is what I'm saying. And it's like, he's diabetic. That's not going to change. This is how it's going to be for the rest of his life. Why does it matter how many highs and lows he has? He should be able to get a device that has saved his life on numerous occasions. He has had it for a year and a half now, and it has saved his life on numerous occasions. Because without it, in the middle of the night, before he had it, I was getting up. He would go to bed at 8 o'clock, so I would test his finger at 8 o'clock. I would get up at 10 o'clock before I went to bed, test his finger again. My alarm got set for 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And depending on what his number was at 2 o'clock, it might be set for 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. Because you just don't know. Even now, in the middle of the night, when he goes low, I have to get up in the middle of the night. I get the alarm going off on my phone. And what's great is there have been times, and I hate admitting this, that when he's been high or low, sometimes you don't hear that beeping. So I have another app, which is called the SugarMate app. So I signed up for that. He gets all his readings. So I have it set for between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. And if he goes low, if he goes below a certain number, they call me on my phone with a recording saying his sugar is at this. You need to know it's low.
That's an awesome
which is
app.
Great.
And what's the name of the app again?
SugarMate.
Do a lot of people know about this, or is it?
I think quite a few people.
That's good.
I learned about it from the diabetes group.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it's great because it's, there have been times, you're up 2 or 3, 4 nights in a row just fighting highs and lows, and you're exhausted and you don't hear that beep.
Yeah.
So it makes a huge, huge difference.
Just before I forget, if you send me email me the link to the Facebook group, or like the whatever it is, I can put the link in the description. So if anyone knows anyone with diabetes and looking for a group or something, I can just put it in the description.
Yeah, there's quite a few out there.
Okay, that's
if you're
good.
a parent, there's moms of type 1 diabetes. There's type 1 diabetics. You can put all different things into what you're interested in. Even the Dexcom actually has a Facebook group, which is great too.
That's good.
Because there's so many different questions when it comes to that sometimes. So.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned he would have to deal with this his whole life. Obviously, you said we made it clear that it can lay dormant for early childhood and like young adulthood, and then like spring up. Can like it just like go away as quick as it springs up? Like, can you just naturally start wake up and like, oh shit, my insulin is being produced naturally again? Like, you said it's your liver, right? Or
no, your pancreas.
Pancreas, sorry. Can that just happen or no?
In the honeymoon period, it could. Not that it would be like back fully, 100%. But you can have a period after you're diagnosed that your body still shoots a little bit of insulin out. But besides that, no. There's no cure for it. He will never produce insulin again. His pancreas, he's 5, so the way we explain it to him is his pancreas broke and he needs the shots to stay healthy and strong. So that's what he knows.
Now, this is my conspiratorial side, but I want your take on it. Obviously, there's a lot of people who say, for instance, cancer, there's a cure for it, there's just too much money to be made. You think that we have made it very apparent and clear that there is a very big financial motive to not find a cure. Do you think, again, you're not a conspiracy theorist, I'm just asking you as a person, do you think we're even close to finding a cure, or do you think that we are like it's being suppressed? Or somewhere in the middle. Like
I'm kind of in the middle, only because, like you said, it's a huge expense.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money that people are dishing out for diabetes medication or things that go along with it. But at the same time, they are doing more studies. They're doing more things. Artificial pancreas. I honestly don't know too much about it, but I have heard there has been people who have had their pancreas completely removed and has had an artificial pancreas. I don't know how well it works, how long it works for, but I feel like they are making some progress with different things, but I don't know if there'd ever actually be a cure for the whole thing. I don't.
So you're saying this artificial, so you can't, like, if you're an organ donor, for instance, and you don't have diabetes and someone's needs like a transplant, can you transplant a pancreas?
No, because from what I am assuming, your body is going to attack those cells again. Because that's what your body has been doing. Yes, yeah. So it's going to attack those cells again.
Fucked, yeah.
And you're going to be right back to square one. Yeah. It's a lot.
It is.
It is a lot.
I've learned more in the last 10 minutes. I mean, I'm not 10 minutes. What am I talking about? The last hour than I have in a very long time, and I do a lot of research into conspiracies. So, anything else you want to cover for?
Yeah,
I don't mean I know. I'm not saying like let's end it. I just want to make sure you know what I mean. It's like what else do we want to cover? Because I don't know what else. Like there's things that you know obviously that I don't know about it that you feel like are important. So
yeah.
What else are you thinking?
I will say Declan is only 5, so Declan doesn't care. Declan doesn't care what anybody thinks.
At all, folks.
Not at all. And he will show anyone and everyone his Dexcom, his pump. He'll tell total strangers on the street, I have type 1 diabetes. Yeah. Like, he does not
Wears it
care.
as a badge of honor.
Absolutely. And I hope he never changes.
Yeah.
But he is going to school for the first time. He's going to kindergarten. He was home for preschool, so he didn't experience the classroom and teachers and everything. Yep. So I am nervous about him going to school and how other kids are going to react and treat him.
Yeah.
Only because we have had an instance where not that long ago we were at a park and the little boy found out Declan had diabetes and said, you have diabetes? I don't want to play with you. Don't touch me. They were playing tag. I don't want to get diabetes. Get away from me. I'm not playing with you. I will say his mom was there and put a stop to that pretty quick and said, that's rude. You don't say things like that. That's not how you get it. And Declan's just like, okay, I don't care. Whatever. See you later.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit.
But it broke my heart.
Oh, that just broke my heart hearing that, yeah.
Because it's like, people don't talk about it, and there is so many judgments when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But kids don't know. And, him having to wear a Dexcom and having to wear a pump and the kids seeing it and asking questions or treating him any differently, that's what's gonna kind of sting me. And I know eventually it will with him too. But
now he's getting into school and all that, obviously. And what about sports? Like sports-wise, does like that? Like if you played sports in high school or something, or before that, like does that you said at the beginning of the podcast we were talking about activity, but like does sports particularly like make it like even harder to keep track of stuff, or like from like dropping or rising?
So he is going to play flag football. That starts next week, so it'll be the first time he does that.
Kid's fast as hell, by the way.
He is extremely fast.
Fast as hell.
Yes. He's very excited, but he's also a little nervous. I'm a little nervous about because a Dexcom and a pump can get ripped off kind of easily.
Yeah.
And you've witnessed it numerous times. They've been ripped off because he was too rough, things like that. But the good thing is that his Dexcom is hooked up to his phone. I am on the Follow app, so I see, even if I'm not with him, I see what his numbers are all day, which is great.
Yeah.
So that will make it easier when he does play sports, but he's also going to have to keep his phone on him.
Yeah.
His number is going to have to be checked before he starts playing, because if he's at a certain number, he's going to need some kind of carb before he plays, because he's going to drop from running around.
Just doing the activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's why it's so important to have these conversations too, because like, you know, if we're talking about that little kid who was just ignorant to the fact that he didn't know anything about the illness, or I don't like the word illness because that makes it sound like he's like dying or something, you know. But you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But like, or like a high school or a middle school flag football or coach like not knowing about diabetes. So if he's like, hey, I need to take a break, and the coach is like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a tie game. The game's on the line. We need you. Like, I feel like the more people we kind of conversate with about these things, the more likelihood of those things diminishing.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So it is good because, like, he is going to school, so I do have to meet with his school nurse right when school starts. I have talked to her a few times. She is not familiar with diabetes at all. She's never had a student with diabetes, so it makes me...
Ever?
That
sounds fucking
The only
crazy.
time she's ever had someone with diabetes was in, like, a hospital setting. I'm assuming it was a nursing school, like, when she was doing clinicals and things like that.
How did she get that job? She's never, like, I feel like you should have, that's like a basic thing.
Because I will say, most nurses don't really know. There's a lot of nurses, unless you're specifically in endocrinology and you're a nurse for that, or you deal with kids on, you know, a daily basis or a weekly basis that has it, they don't really know. There's been a few nurses, even at Children's Hospital, when Declan has been in there, that there was one instance where I ran downstairs to get coffee. It was after Declan got admitted to the hospital, and the nurse came in and he was talking to his dad and asking different questions, and he saw that Declan was dropping, so he said to the nurse, I need you to get me orange juice right now. And the nurse said, okay, after I finish this.
Yeah.
And his dad said, no, you need to get orange juice right now. He's dropping. He's at 46, which is a very low number. You need to get orange juice now. And he just wasn't taking it seriously because he's not familiar with diabetes. Yeah. And Chris had to run out into the hallway, get another nurse saying he's at 46, get him orange juice. He needs it now. The nurse came in, brought it, and she was more familiar with diabetes and was not happy.
With the other nurse?
With the other nurse, because he was putting it off.
Yeah.
Like, you can't put it off. You go too low, you can have a seizure. If his number goes too low, he could go unconscious. If that ever happened, he has to have glucagon, which is an emergency insulin that you can either do by injection, or now they have nasal spray. Give him that. If he can't drink anything,
he's passed out or something. Yeah.
And he's not responding. So it's very scary having a too low or a too high. You know, it's a lot. It is a lot.
This whole podcast has been a lot of this information. I mean, we are just bombarding this audience with information. This is great. Like, I don't know. I think this is gonna do wonders just for. Even if it's just a few people, or if it's one or two people, lights the flame for one or two other people, you know? That's how fires start.
And, you know, my big thing is, I mean, you know how I am. When it comes to doctors, nurses, a teacher, whatever, I don't care who it is. I will fight like hell for my kids. Yeah. It doesn't matter who it is. I've had many arguments with doctors, nurses, even a teacher about different situation, because you're the only advocate for your child. You have to advocate for your child, and especially in an instance like this, it's a lot with him going to school. It's a lot with, things that I really didn't even think about, like when he goes into school, that he has to have his diabetes bag with him at all times. What if, unfortunately, we live in a time where there are lockdowns? What if there's a lockdown and the nurse can't come down to the classroom?
That's a valid point.
He has to have his stuff with him. He has to have juice with him. He has to have his insulin with him. Substitute teachers that might not be aware.
Another valid point.
I mean, when he gets a little bit higher, he gets more thirsty, so that makes him have to pee more. So he has to do more bathroom breaks. If there's a teacher that's not aware of it, and says, no, you can't go to the bathroom. So a 504 plan will be put in place with the school. But for anyone who does have someone with diabetes, a child, or they're in the same kind of situation, don't take no for an answer. Because you know your child better than anybody else. And JDRF, which is the the juvenile diabetes, they have advocates. They have advocates that will help you get what you think your child needs for this. So you have to stand your ground for your kids.
If there's closing thoughts here, if there's one thing, obviously this might be hard, so there's a couple, just say so, but what's the one main thing you want people to know about diabetes that is either a misconception or just people lack the knowledge of? If you had to tell one person one thing only.
I would probably have to say, just because you think you know about it, don't act like you do when you really don't. Don't judge a parent for something you might think they're doing that's hurting their child. For example, you're giving them too much sugar. They can't have sugar. Well, you don't know. You don't know about it, so you need to keep your mouth closed. Parents I've actually had this happen. When you have to give your child a shot, you have to give your child a shot, whether you're at a park, whether you're in a car, whether you're in a restaurant eating dinner. And don't give the nasty looks. Don't, make comments because someone's giving their child a shot in a restaurant right before they're eating. It's
just got to end the ignorance. That's all it is.
But ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Because I know if somebody asked me a question about it, I would absolutely tell them. If they asked Declan a question, what he has on him, he would absolutely explain it.
How about we do this? If anyone has any questions after listening to this, just leave it in the comment section. And I'll check in a few days, and I'll run the questions. If there's any questions by her, and she can tell me what to say, and I'll comment it. If there's any, just in case we missed anything that people might still not know, or
And another thing I do want to say is for parents who are doing this, don't be afraid to cry. Don't be afraid to be angry. Don't be afraid to be upset, because it's a lot, and you don't want your child going through this. But there are tough days when it comes to lack of sleep, uncontrolled numbers, things like that, and it's frustrating and exhausting. But you're the parent of this child for a reason. You got this. As hard as it might be, you got this. And you just got to keep being strong.
They need a wine club for parents of children with diabetes, or a book club, or wine, just to get out of the stress or some shit like that.
I know. Well, that's actually another thing too, because it's, before he was diagnosed, it was not that we really went out much or anything, but it's I really can't leave him with too many people because they aren't trained. They don't know how to do it. If, we can't just go away for the weekend without the kids because we have nobody, and then you're leaving the kids, So it's a lot on parents, and it's little things like that you don't really think of, and it sucks. There are days that it sucks, but like I said, there's a reason you're the parent of a type 1 diabetic, and you got this.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for having this conversation. I learned, like I said, I learned a bunch. I hope the other people learned a bunch. I think we did a good job. I think that was good stuff. Any final words?
No.
All right, fair enough. Thank you everyone for watching. Jeffrey Epstein still didn't kill himself. Everyone have a great night. I love you all. Thank you. Stay positive. Epstein got killed by the government, just saying.